What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr War Games, bringing you the first profile of 2021, and where better to start than Super Quantums. If you are like me and you grew up with Power Rangers, this is one of the fan favourite decks for you, and I absolutely love it. The whole idea is you do have what are in the game called as red layers, so obviously you've got different Rangers, you've got red, white, blue, green, and you've got a little Alphen that can float around as well. Fingers crossed we're going to get some more support in the future, maybe a yellow ranger and a black ranger as well, just to kind of keep going. You can even get a pink ranger in there as well. But with that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. If you get this video up to at least 50 likes, I will bring you a full test hand video for this deck. I will explain a short combo as we go through it as well, and I'll explain each card as we go. However, before I do get started, a massive shout out to Yugioh Tony. Now, I was looking around to see if there was any different type of Super Quantum techs that have been involved in the deck that I haven't touched for a while. And I came across Tony's video. Now, the reason I'm shouting this out is because when I watched it, there wasn't anything that blew me away in it, but the way that he explained every single card in so much detail, it's a very, very good video for anyone that is just getting started with this deck. So, with that out of the way, let's get into today's profile of Power Rangers. So we start off with triple Super Quantum Red Layer. Yes, back where he belongs. The whole idea of Red Layer is if you control no monsters, you get to special summon him for free. And then when this card is normal or special, you get to target one Super Quant in your graveyard and add it to your hand. That's something you don't see often because, you know, everyone plays it in Warriors. Then, as with all the other effects, they have an if effect. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, you will get an additional effect. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, you target one Super Quant monsters in your graveyard, accept himself and special summon it. It cannot activate its effects. You can only use each of the effects once per turn. So they are hard once per turns. Then you've got Super Quantum White Layer. I'm a little bit disappointed this isn't a foil, but, you know, I'll live. So you can send one non-light Super Quant monster from your hand or face up from the field to the graveyard to special summon this card. So this is the most recent card we received and was much welcomed with the way that it can just summon itself, which is beautiful. When this card is normal or special, you send one Super Quant monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it is a when effect, but you can choose to send. And if you do, you change this card's attribute and level to the same of that monster. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Super Quantum Fairy Alphen from your deck to your hand, or from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Only use each effect once per turn. Again, that effect is basically searching out Super Quant Fairy Alphen, which is basically Alpha from the show, in my opinion. I'm basing this all off of the first original series of Power Rangers, just so. And then Alphen, again, is incredibly good. It deserves a rarity bump. But once per turn, you can type one Super Quant monster you control. All face-up monsters you currently control become that monster's level. So it's very important that it changes all monsters. So we are, spoiler, playing the Danger Engine in this deck. So you could technically turn all of your Dangers into either level 7s, 4s or 3s. It's rare that you'd actually want to, but it does give you that option should you need to. But its main effect is you tribute this card, reveal 3 Super Quant monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one for you to special summon and the rest gets sent to the graveyard. I only use this effect once per turn. So this is one of the biggest weak points, but it's one of the biggest strengths of the deck as well. So the idea is that you tribute this as cost, then you're going to be able to get another Quant out, and then the other Quants that go to the graveyard are then going to trigger their effects. So 9 times out of 10, what you really want to happen is you want the blue to be summoned, and you want the green to be sent for a discard on the draw, and the red to be sent to revive the green. That's the best outcome scenario. Everything else from that point on is okay, but not as good as it could be. Speaking of green, we play triple green. So when this card is normal or special, you special summon one Super Quant monster from your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can discard one Super Quant card, draw one card. Only use each effect once per turn. Less effective with the rest, but still kind of good in utility just to help you swarm the board. We've then got triple Super Quantum Blue Layer. So when this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Super Quant card from your deck to your hand. So 9 out of 10, you're going to be searching out the field spell. Except itself. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target up to 3 Super Quant cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. I only use each effect once per turn. Now, I would have really liked this to have the Diagnostic Emerald effect of drawing a card, but sadly, it does not. Then we move on to the Danger Engine. Now, the reason the Danger Engine is so good is because both these archetypes actually utilise each other. So Super Quants want to send cards. Super Quants, when they are sent, get effects. So if they're sent through dangers being discarded, they'll get an effect. And then the Super Quants want to discard cards. So when they're being discarded, you then trigger to get effects. So that'll become clearer later on down the line, don't worry. So you've got your Danger Sukanoko, your Danger Jackalope, your Danger Nessie. You know, straightforward on that one. We've then got the one Danger Mothman and the one Danger Chupacabra, because we're actually going to go more for the rank 4 plays. Regardless, their graveyard effects are still very, very good as well, because then this can bring back your 3s for your rank 3s and rank 7s. If there was a level 6 Danger that was decent, you would be going for that as well. Finish off the monsters, my spicy tech that I'm bringing to this deck is the one Codebreaker 0 Day. The reason this is so good is, with the ability of the link 3 of the Super Quanters, you can actually, this doesn't care if it gets discarded as well, so this is easy discard fodder. As long as you get 2 monsters on the board, which can come from your extenders of the Super Quants or the Dangers, you then link those 2 into the Codebreaker, and the Codebreaker engine then goes off as long as it is linked to the link 3 Magnus. And then by doing so, what that allows you to have the ability to do is you can discard XYZ, draw, discard XYZ, draw, link those 2 XYZs together to make the link 2 Codebreaker, do the Codebreaker combo, link the 2 Codebreakers together to make Appaloosa, Access Code, or Avramax, if you want to. That then unlocks an additional zone for the Super Quant, and the Super Quant allows you to draw as many times as you want, as long as it's different from the XYZ that was summoned. So even if you had already XYZ summoned the blue mecha and the green mecha, if you link those 2 together, you bring out 0 Day. If you get another level 4 together and you hard cast the green, you'll get to draw an additional card. Then by doing so, what you've done as well is you've put the XYZs in the graveyard. So you have the field spell, you can then get rid of the field spell, and as long as you leave a zone free, you get, don't even need to leave a zone free actually, you get rid of the field spell, you can then use the XYZ that's now on board with 2 materials, so that's 3 materials for your Magnus, plus the 2 in the graveyard, giving it a 5 material Magnus. You get an additional draw if you put it to a zone the link 3 points to, and you've already set up the board. So your board would technically end with the link 3 Magnus, the big Mecha Magnus, plus an Avramax, Access Code, or an Appaloosa. And that's just the base minimum. So yeah, we've got the 1 0 Day. Then we've got the Gamma package. So for me right now, in the current format, Gamma is the best hand trap if it can actually aid you during your turn as well, because then it gives you best of both worlds. And what this does by aiding you is, if you were to activate any of your one-offs, your Terraforming, your E-Teller, your Monster Reborn, Foolish Burial, Reasoning, 1-for-1, Pot of Avarice, or you tribute the Alphen, which is your most important card, if they try to stop it, you can Gamma. That then gives you the ability to use these as link fodder should you need to. If you wanted to put an Omega in the extra deck as well, you could do that. But on top of that, it allows you to protect your cards and then link climb higher. So, incredibly powerful card. You don't want to put too many hand traps in this deck, which is why Gamma is really good as well, because you don't mind discarding Driver off of it, or off of the Dangers. You don't mind discarding Driver off of any of the other effects as well. And you don't mind discarding spare Gammas once you get to them off of the Dangers effect, or of course the Quantum effects as well. Whereas Ash Blossom's Nibirias are a little bit more difficult to, freely want to discard. We've then got triple Super Quantum Magna Carrier. Now, it's a shame this doesn't have an additional effect. And what I mean by that is it could have had an effect like when activated. And it could have been a when effect, didn't mind that. But like when activated, add something. But the way this works is you discard one card, target one Super Quant monster you control, special summon one from your extra deck, a Super Quantum Mecha Beast XYZ monster with the same attribute as that monster you control, using it as XYZ material. It's treated as an XYZ summon. You can send this card from your field zone to the graveyard, then target 3 Super Quant or Mecha Beast XYZ monsters with different names from cards you control and or in your graveyard, special summon them, and if you do, attach the materials to, basically you get to summon out the Great Magnus. So then you special summon 1 Super Quant or Mech King Great Magnus from your extra deck, and then if you do, attach those materials to it. So the reason that this was bad during Master of 4, which made no sense when we had the Link 3, was it turns out you actually needed a spare zone, because the way it was is you would special summon out the Magnus, and then if you had the 3 XYZs on board, which you'd put to the zones the Link monster points to get the draws, you still need to get rid of them in order to make the full combo. But no, we don't need to worry about that. The one Terraforming to search this bad boy out, because it is important in the deck. The issue is it can clog. Like, you need to see it, but you only need to see one of it. And then after that point, you don't mind discarding it and getting rid of it. 1 E-Telly, special summon with the blue layer. 1 Monster Reborn, revive any of your layers or dangers or even the code breakers. Foolish Burial, trigger any of your quantums. Reasoning, you're playing 4s, 3s, 7s, 1s, the whole 9 yards, so Reasoning is a must. And then a single 1-for-1 because Alpha, like I said, is important to get to. Then we've got the 1 Pot of Avarice. Now the only reason I put Pot of Avarice in here is for the pure fact that you do burn through your deck. Like, you're discarding off the field spell, you're sending to the graveyard off of the back of your Alphen, you're sending to the graveyard off of the back of your white layer as well. So you're actually burning up your graveyard. Now, yes, the blue layer does target 3 and put them back, but it only targets quantums. Whereas what Avarice will do, which is going to be quite useful, is it will target 5 monsters in graveyard, including your dangers, put them back into the deck, and allow you to draw 2 fresh new cards, which could then be the dangers that can help extend you further. The whole idea behind this deck is you need to maintain your hand advantage while using engines such as dangers, such as the quantums, to burn through your hand and then replenish it. The final card that is a must, in my opinion, is Triple Imperm. Now, if you don't have Imperm, Triple Chalice will do just as well. The whole idea within this current format is, if this deck was to face Virtual Worlds or Drytrons and they got their full combo off, you would lose. Because you can't get past the Vanities without a card like this. You can't get past like a VFD or a Shen Shen. So you need to be playing a card like Infinite Impermanence. Now, the last 3 spots in the deck come down to your personal preference. So my options are Forbidden Droplet, if you have it. The reason Droplet's good is because, again, it sends your cards to the graveyard. So as long as you're sending your cards to the graveyard, you'll get their additional effects to trigger. So you're not always negging and not always losing. But it is an expensive card, and it is very, very specific against the Virtual World, because you've got to make sure that the Shen Shen isn't on board, or you've negated the Shen Shen prior. Your other option is Ash Blossom and Nibiru, but like I mentioned about these with the dangers, you've got to be very, very careful, because the dangers are going to discard these. There's no guarantee these will stay in your hand. So what you've got to be very careful of is that you're not putting yourself in a position of going, should I activate the danger or should I hold on to my hand trap? Every time you see a danger in hand, you need to be able to go, yep, cool, reveal, let's go. And you move as fast as you possibly can. There's at no point where you look at your hand and go, you'll look at your hand and you might go, right, I'll set that, I'll get rid of that first. But you should never be stuck with a hand trap in hand when you're trying to use dangers. That's my opinion anyway. Because you want to make sure that your decisions are quick, clear, precise, and you never want to put yourself in that predicament when you could easily avoid it. So the only reason you'd put those in is when you're siding them in later in the game. Now let's move on to the extra deck, and again the extra deck has a couple of spicy introductions or inclusions, but we do start off with the 1 Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus. You only need 1 purely because it's rare that you're going to get him out. Your plays kind of need to be adapted to the current game state, so you're probably going to be going again with the Neo Super Quantum Mech Grand Beast. These you're going to, they're kind of your own board, but you put so much resource into this guy that you need to make sure that when you do that, you're going to win the game. Now, when you do, 9 times out of 10, you probably will. Because Magnus has the ability that when you have 6 or more cards as materials, your opponent cannot add cards from their deck to hand. 4 or more, this card is unaffected by your opponent's card effects, so it can only be Kaiju'd. It is a 3600 beater, and if it has 2 or more materials, once per turn, quick effect during the main phase, detach 1 material from this card, shuffle, non-target shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck. So, very, very good disruption. And like I said, to get it up to 6+ materials, you need to at least be able to go XYZ, discard, draw, XYZ, discard, draw, XYZ, discard, draw, then get rid of all three of those, go into Magnus, and draw 1 card from there. So it's very, very specific. It does burn through a lot of resource to get there. There are ways of putting this on 5, but you kind of want to, if you're going to make him, you've got to make him with 6, because you've got to stop your opponent going. The only time you'd ever make this with 4 is purely for the ability that you're going to be able to back it up with something like Appaloosa, Access Code, or of course your Avamax. Now the Neo Super Quantum Mech King Blaster Magna, whew, bit of a mouthful. So 2+ effect monsters including the Super Quant, so slightly generic as long as you get a Super Quant to the board. This link summon card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, so you don't need IP Masquerena. Pew! Each time a Super Quant XYZ monster or monsters with a different name from a card you control is special summoned from the extra deck to a zone or zones this card points to, draw 1 card. If a face-up XYZ monster or monsters this card points to is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, special on one super quant monster from your deck with the same original attribute as one of those destroyed XYZ monsters. You can only use this effect, so the revival, once per turn. Now, I don't like that second effect because, again, it relies on your opponent to do something. Now, if your opponent's smart enough, they're going to get rid of this first, then get rid of your XYZs. So rely less on the second effect. It's more so you're going to use this to draw, do the XYZ, go into the Codebreaker combo that I mentioned, and then use this plus another Codebreaker and go into your final boss monster. And you would have already built up your XYZs ready to go into your Magnus as well. Finishing off on the main deck boss monsters as well, you've got your Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. Now, again, you can put Zeus on top of this, and then that's just like an 8 material Zeus. It's madness. You're probably going to be putting it on the little ones more so than not. It is kind of a mecha and it fits in nicely. It is expensive, so if you don't have Zeus, you don't need to include it. Do not worry. The other final boss monster as well that we do have is the Infinite Trap Fortress Megaclots, because again, if you choose not to go into the Magnus, don't know why you wouldn't, but then you could use all 3 of your XYZs and go into your Megaclops and go off from there. Keep in mind that when the materials of the XYZs go to the graveyard as well, if they're super quants, they will trigger. So, let's finish off the Link monsters while we're here. We've got the one Codebreaker Virus Swordsman, and we've got the one Codebreaker Virus Berserker. If you don't want to play this engine, that's fine. You have space for the Dragoon engine if you want. You also have space for Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Phoenix, plenty of other different options as well. It really does come down to your personal preference and how you would want to play it. The final card that I would advise putting into this deck, again, comes down to your personal preference as to whether or not you want Avramax, whether you want Access Code, or whether you are worried about your Alphen being impermed. And if you are worried about your Alphen being impermed, you can put in Link Karibo and Relinquish. Continuing on with the rest of the deck, we do play the one Super Quantum Mecha Beast Lusterex. This one is can't attack while it has no materials, but once per turn you can detach one material from this card and type one effect monster on the field. Negate that face-up monster's effects until the end of this turn. It becomes a quick effect if it has white layer as material. Once per turn, you can attach one Super Quant monster from your hand or field to this card as material. Now, all Super Quant monsters share, or XYZs share that effect that they can't attack without material, and they can attach a quantum material. Plus, they all become quick effects once they have the correct ranger or layer attached to it. So we do then play 2 Mecha Beast Magnalancia. The quick effect of this one, or the effect of this one in general, is you target one monster on the field and you get to destroy it. And then you've got your Ouroboros. You get to target one monster on the field and flip it to face down defense positions. It becomes a Book of Moon. And then you've got your Super Quant Grand Pulse, which is target a back row and destroy it. The final XYZ that we play is Abyss Dweller, purely because right now, in my opinion, Abyss Dweller is the best rank 4 around. Best XYZ to defensively go up against. So if you put it up against Virtual World, they lose their Spell Graveyard effect, their Trap Graveyard effect, their Nyan Nyan Revival effect, their Cloud Castle, their Shen Shen Revival effect as well. If you do it against Eldritch, they lose all of their Eldritch traps if they put them in the graveyard. And if you do it against Drytrons, they pretty much have to pass because they have to use all their Drytron effects from hand rather than graveyard, so they lose resource. And then, as you've noticed, this is only a 14 card extra deck. That is because the last card can either become a new boss monster in the form of Avramax or Access Code, a new Disruptor or another Disruptor and Unicorn, or just for those worst case scenarios of Link Karibo and Relinquish Anima. So it's entirely up to you on how you want to adapt the tail end of this. You could put another rank 4 in there, you could put more rank 7s in there. The reason that Abyss Dweller is in here as well is purely because you're going to be getting this more consistently. So you're playing 2 level 4s in the Dangers, you're playing the level 4 of the Codebreaker, you're playing the 3 level 4s of the green, you've got your Alphans that can target the green to make everything level 4s as well. And if you're looking at any of the ranks XYZs of 4s, 6s, 7s or 3s, in my opinion, unless you're going to play Gossip Shadow, the 4 is the best option. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for the Power Ranger Super Quantal deck profile. Thank you so much for bearing with me on this one. I had to look back and saw that the last update I did on this was like 9 months ago, so I do apologise, guys. It's been a while. But the Power Rangers are back, and they are updated for all of your viewing pleasure. Anyway, I hope you like this profile. Like I said at the start, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. Getting this video to at least 50 likes will unlock a full test hand video for this exact deck right in front of you, and I can show you all of its amazing glory. The issue with the deck like this is it requires very specific cards to get going, or it requires your entire hand of random cards plus 1 to kind of get you going as well. But it is an incredibly fun deck. If you grew up with Power Rangers like I did, you're going to absolutely love it. And I highly advise trying to pick it up, especially now that Red Layer is a heck of a lot cheaper to pick up. And the rest of the extra deck, again, has been reprinted and is very cheap as well. But for now, as absolutely always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, smash that notification bell. Stay safe and happy dueling.